The process of designing is actually way more than just designing. For me and for many, there are actually a number of steps that we actually have to go through before we even think of the word design. In today's video, I want to share with you the behind the scenes of my design process and why it is so important to develop a system that is going to be the foundation of your design work. Let's get right into it. You have probably heard about the phrase to develop a design concept. In interior design, every time that we design a space, it doesn't matter what type of space it is, we have to develop a concept for our space. So by definition, a concept is a thought or an idea. And when we gather these ideas collectively, we create an abstract vision, which is to become tangible. But things get very complicated when designers start their design process in the concept phase. Although it's a very important phase of the design process, it is not the first one. Before I even think about my concept, I have to familiarize myself with the project. If I'm designing a commercial space, I want to be familiar with what those spaces actually look like in real life. This is called the research phase. For this project, I did a thorough research of the same type of commercial space that I was going to be designing. So I started to hand draw sketches of my observations in this type of projects. And that included layouts, space planning, materiality, lighting, flooring design, ceiling design, everything that you can imagine. This particular project was for a sustainable clothing brand. So the sustainability factor had to be considered within the interior space. So I had to do a lot of research about sustainable interior design and what types of materials were accurate for this project. By the way, if you want to learn more about sustainable interior design, you can click up this video right here. So in this phase of the design process, I'm not even attempting to design yet. It's all about research and observation. Some designers and architects will spend months doing research about case studies of projects similar to theirs. And this is crucial to understand the real function of the space that you will be designing. The fact that you are an architect or a designer does not mean that you are familiar with all types of spaces, because you're not spending a lot of time within those spaces a lot of the times. If you are going to design a library, you have to familiarize yourself with libraries, what activities get done there, what's important and what is not. So research is very important. After I become familiar with case studies of projects similar to my project, I can start shaping the direction of my own project. Are there any specific elements that I like? That could be the materials, the furniture, the lighting, the ceiling design. And in this phase, guys, you have to be very critical about other spaces. The fact that other spaces have been designed already does not mean that they're always the most efficient and that they're always the greatest design. So even analyzing these design mistakes that you may see, it is part of your critical analysis as an interior designer. During my research, for example, I found that there are a lot of materials that generate a massive amount of waste and cannot be recycled. And I also found that some other materials are amazing for the environment and they can be biodegradable or even used over and over again. The reason I'm telling you this is just to remind you that research phase is very, very important, and whatever elements that are specific to your project, for this case was sustainability, you have to do a very deep, thorough research of what that is so that you can design accordingly. This step of the design process, I start to explore my possibilities with the design of the space. And guys, in the beginning, this type of exploration should be very vague, and you shouldn't put a lot of thought into it. It's here when you can generate as many ideas as you want. And this is what we refer to brainstorming or word association. Brainstorming can be a map, it could be a list. It's normally words that are going to help you describe the space. All of these words and idea generations will later lead to design possibilities. Sketching your ideas and gathering images that represent or reflect those ideas is another very helpful way to visualize your design possibilities. So this is actually when the concept development phase actually starts. And I like to think about concept development as a white canvas. And on this white canvas, you can do anything you want. And in this phase, any idea that you may have is good. There are no such a thing as bad ideas. And you should use your creativity and your curiosity as your main tools for generating more ideas. To be honest with you, I find that this is one of the hardest phases, if not the hardest phase of the interior design process. And that is because your mind is challenged and somewhat obligated to be creative. And guys, the easiest way to go about idea generation is actually through observation of your surrounding and of your environment. So by this, I mean being aware of everything that surrounds you in relation to design. And this could be fashion, industrial design, product design, furniture design. There are just so many things around us that can trigger that creative mind inside you. And because creating a concept is most of the times very challenging and very hard, you should always rely on the principles and the elements of interior design. I have made videos about those, so if you want to check that out, I can also leave it here. Any designer needs the principles and the elements of design. And a lot of the times when you start using these principles, these elements, things start to work out somehow. Okay guys, so after we have a concept, and by the way, a lot of these steps are not linear, so a lot of the times things won't work and you have to go back and refine other stages to be able to move forward. But let's say that you have a pretty good, solid concept, then you're gonna start to try to make it tangible, to try to reflect that concept and how it's actually gonna look within a space. This is why we create design boards. The first design board that we create is called a mood board, and it should only include images that are very abstract, and these images should reflect the mood and the vibe and the feeling within the space. Those words that you were trying to gather in the beginning of the concept development phase should connect to the images for your mood board. So guys, in this phase, it's very important that you actually show what elements and principles you're gonna use, and you use them within the images that you select. So for example, if you want to use the element of line, that element has to show in the mood board somehow. That same element is gonna carry on to the following design boards that I will talk about, which brings me to the next board, which is the concept board. So after you create a mood board, which should be abstract, you wanna kind of take that mood or that vibe into a physical space that can be seen. So we sometimes choose images that are going to be similar to our concept. It's very important not to choose a lot of images of many different interior spaces, because a lot of the times if you show a concept board to a client and they see, for example, an image of a living room, they might think that you want to replicate that living room, and there might be a lot of elements that you actually do not like from that photo, right? So a lot of the times it's easier to just select vignettes, which is like little sections and snippets of rooms that you like, and highlighting those elements that you are going to use. You have to be very clear with your design boards. Then comes the material board, which is actually the actual materials that you will be using. This material board is very useful just to make sure that all your materials are coordinating in terms of texture, in terms of color, in terms of materiality. Material boards are really, really great. And I think it's probably one of the most fun parts of this process. So guys, design boards are actually the first thing that you will show to your client to make sure that you are on the same page with them. So once I have my concept defined, I will move into my space planning. And this is a lot of the times done before the concept. I don't really know what's the right way to do it. When I was doing residential interior design, we did the concept before anything else. But now that I'm learning about commercial interior spaces and we've been designing offices and restaurants and things like that, I feel like a lot of the times the clients or the owners of those commercial spaces actually want to see the functionality of the space. And like, for example, how many people are going to fit into that space, how many tables can they put, what the kitchen size needs to be before you start thinking about the concept. After the space planning comes the technical stuff that we do, which is like the construction drawings, the elevations, the sections, all your specifications for materials, for furniture, for everything you're gonna use. So that's more on the boring side of interior design. I mean, a lot of people like that phase, but for me, I am more into the creative part of it and the actual process of designing. Another thing that's also very helpful, and some clients will ask for it, is creating realistic renders of this space, or even hand-drawn renders. I do not have a preference. I think both are great. This way you will know exactly how your space is gonna look like. And if there's something you don't like, then this is the time to change it. If you do not create any renders, which I've seen a lot of the times happen, you kind of only rely on your mood boards, on your material boards, and trying to imagine the space. But it's very hard for a lot of people, including clients, actually mostly clients, to picture a space without looking at it. So renders are something that are very important and very useful as well, and that I would recommend anyone to incorporate it into the design process. So guys, that was my design process. I hope you liked this video. I hope you learned anything new today. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.